Hi, what's the whole thing about gluten? Did you hear about gluten 20 years ago? No, even 10 years ago, nobody was talking about gluten. First time I was ever aware of gluten intolerance, that new condition, was with my husband, who early on, like in his late 40s, started bloating and being exhausted and taking naps and lost his energy, and it took a lot of detective work to realize he was gluten intolerant. There's, by the way, tests you can take with a qualified doctor. Remember, you have to go to a qualified doctor because the doctors who've only gone to orthodox medical schools are not up on this, and I'm, with all due respect, going to say doctors are down on what they're not up on. So go to a Forever Health doctor, a free service that will direct you to a doctor who's qualified near you. Now, the reason gluten is such an issue is that there used to be 80 different strains of wheat, which have now been engineered down to 5. And so the gluten content in these 5 strains are off the charts. Then you add to it that so much of our wheat today is genetically modified, and you get another level of contamination that affects a person who is gluten intolerant. If you're English, Irish, French, German, Spanish, but not exclusive to, you very likely could be a carrier of a gene called the HLA gene. What is that? My husband carries it. Several people in my family carry it. You're the canaries in the coal mine. You react quicker than the average person does to chemicals and toxins. What does that have to do with gluten? There's a tipping point. Maybe the air freshener here is a chemical that you can't tolerate. Maybe the pesticides on your food is a chemical you can't tolerate. Maybe it's mold exposure. You never know what is the trigger for your tipping point, but for most people, it's gluten. It's gluten that makes them bloat. With children and adults, you can put up on as much as 10 pounds in a week, maybe even more. You bloat up. You got a puffy face? Assess yourself. Look in the mirror. Is your face puffy? Look at your old pictures. Was it puffy then and it's puffy now? Is your body kind of puffy? That's a sure sign of gluten intolerance. Give up grain. Give up grain probably forever, and particularly those of you who carry the HLA gene. It's poison to you. And if you are gluten intolerant, then all of a sudden that's your tipping point that makes you allergic to everything else. They now call it MCS, multiple chemical sensitivities. That means you're allergic to the world, like my husband, everything. The formaldehyde in the dashboard of the car makes his nose all crazy. Air freshener at the airport makes his nose all crazy. And it's exhausting and it's dangerous to your health. Gluten intolerance is not a fad, it's a real thing, and the reason that it's more prevalent today than it ever was is because we are under the greatest environmental assault in the history of humanity, and they have messed with our wheat. Sorry to tell you that, but that's your solution. Hope this helps.